We are live at the European Blockchain Convention in Barcelona. My name is Vince Howard, Marketing Director at OpiPets Group. We're here to talk to you about OpiPets today. Now I'm joined with my esteemed colleagues, Adam, who is our CTO, and also Jordan, co-founder and Chief Commercial Officer at OpiPets Group. Now we've been having a lot of comments and questions from our community. Everybody wants to know more about OpiPets. We've been so fortunate to grow the community significantly in the past couple of months, but we have been very, very scant on details. The questions that we've been getting have been loaded towards tokenomics, but also trying to understand the gameplay and development of the game itself. So we're going to do our best, whilst we've got a gap in our schedule, to answer all of your questions that we've had come through on Discord, Telegram, a couple on Twitter as well, and we had a few from YouTube from an AMA that we did last week. So without further ado, Jordan, number one question, or most important one, I believe, is what are the tokens that are going to be used within OpiPets? Explain the difference between the governance and the in-game token for the community.
Thanks, Vince. So we have two fundamental tokens attached to the OpiPets project. The first is OPIP, the governance token. This will be used for community governance, where the community will be able to vote on upgrades to the game, upgrades to the roadmap moving forward, as well as things like where the community treasury is allocated. The second token is OPI, which is our utility token. This is the in-game reward token that you earn just by simply playing the game. Yeah.
Thanks, Jordan. Adam, one for you, which has come in. A lot of blockchains at the moment, especially around gaming, are having problems with scalability because you add 100,000, 200,000 users to a blockchain trying to do and perform activities and transactions at the same time. It can create a lot of congestion. How are you planning, from a technical architecture point of view, to get over that issue with on-chain and off-chain transactions and activity and not slow down the performance of the game for the community?
So thank you for that question, Vince. So for us, we're designing the game to be a great experience for players. So, we're gamers ourselves, and we know that that's the most important part of the experience. So to do that, most of the gameplay, the game logic, the interactions are actually going to be off-chain. So the items that we're keeping on-chain are going to be when you're minting characters, creating NFTs, interacting with your wallet, earning tokens, withdrawing, and that's really going to be the on-chain activity. The vast majority of it, we're going to keep off-chain, we're going to keep it highly performant, and it's going to feel like a first-class gaming experience that people are used to in other settings.
Great. Excuse the mic that we're using at the moment. We're just making do with what we have. We've had this question a couple of times, but I will phrase it this way. With a mintable utility token, how do we plan to keep inflation and mint rate under control? I think that's probably one for you, Jordan.
In order to keep inflation under control, what we've essentially done is we've had an initial mint of 250 million. Attached to every interaction in the game, there's obviously transaction fees. A portion of those transaction fees are burned. At this moment in time, we're looking at about 1/4 of the transaction fee as burned, but this will be variable depending on, as the game scales and how it performs, what is the most effective burn rate for that token.
Yeah, I guess, Jordan, from our perspective, we don't claim to know everything. And I think a lot of how the game will work and some of the mechanisms are going to be based on feedback from the community as well. It's the whole point in why we're doing what we're doing. This is probably a split question here now. So will there be a burning function for the in-token / NFT to balance the supply of both the NFTs and the token? And this part probably makes sense for me adding it together as well. Will pet NFT purchased through the in-game governance token be redeemable by burning NFT? I can answer that last bit because the governance token will not be the way and the mechanism which the people will purchase any NFT within the game. That will be the utility token, so that probably answers that. But going back to the original question, will there be any function to help balance NFT tokens by burning within the game? And maybe Adam, do you want to start with that, or Jordan?
I can certainly talk to this a little bit. There is going to be the ability to burn NFTs in the game. I think there's a number of different ways that we can apply this, and to be honest with you, I think we're probably at the stage where we're interested in discussing it more and really getting thoughts from the community as well. But you will be able to burn NFTs in the game. One of the key things for us is that those NFTs are unique. And so the burning component of that is important to keep that uniqueness and to make sure the supply is right in the game as well.
It's important to remember that because there are a limited number of pet slots, burning of NFTs is almost essential. Although you might mint your NFT with a particular set of stats, a particular set of armor at one point, as you progress through the game, you may earn better armor, increase the stats of that pet. And in order for that NFT to then be able to battle against other players' NFTs, what you're going to need to do is burn that NFT and remint with the new statistics and the new armor and the new characteristics.
And in fact, actually, I guess that ties into the on-chain, off-chain dynamic that we were talking about as well. So instead of having all of that activity be on-chain permanently, which would slow down the gameplay and potentially increase costs as well, we're doing it periodically, as Jordan kind of says. So I think there'll be a much better user experience there for the gamers as well.
These are some heavy questions, but I think really important. The other one that has come through is, how will you tackle the liquidity in the market, and what measures will be taken to avoid the adversities of P2E competitors? So I think what this person's asking is, we've seen a lot of tokens which have done very, very well, but over time, as the game has grown and increased and more people are earning more of the in-game utility token, the liquidity obviously suffers and the value of that token suffers as well. What are we doing with OpiPets to try to combat that?
Well, I think obviously the first thing to mention is that burn rate. That definitely goes a long way in helping keep the value of the token very stable. What we're also going to be doing is we're also going to be buying our own utility token on the open market with some of the revenues generated from the game. This will also further help demand, but what it'll also do is keep that mint rate again under control, making sure that we're not minting more than we absolutely need at any given point, keeping that value as stable as possible.
What percentage of our revenues will we use to do that, Jordan?
We're probably looking at the moment at around 25%, and this again will increase and decrease as we figure out the sweet spot, for keeping the value of the token at a particular level.
What was the reason for having the utility token and the governance token?
Well, what we wanted to do is we really wanted to separate governance from reward. The governance token obviously has, it's non-mintable and has a maximum supply, whereas the utility token is actually mintable. And what we wanted to do was allow governance token holders to still dictate kind of how that game moves forward into the future without it actually affecting the, smaller players in the community or the lower token holders. And by segregating the two, what we've done is we've allowed rewards and governance to kind of sit on their own two pillars.
So what I get from that, and you and I, when we were writing the white paper, Jordan, very much had this in mind, is we're trying to keep the speculation away from the utility token to give that a little bit more stability, because we understand, yes, it's great when the token price goes up significantly for users, but it's not so great when they've slaved and they've done lots and lots of hours in the game earning, but then they see their holdings drastically dwindle because of speculation from whales and larger players. They can do that speculation still, those investors, but we hope they do it more on the governance side than a utility token. Is that right?
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the nail there, Vince. In terms of market speculation, we're hoping that stays more on the governance side. And although we do want the utility token, the reward token, to increase in value, we do want it to be as stable as possible. I think this has been one of the biggest downfalls with a lot of P2E games, is that the volatility of that reward token just does not allow players to really go all in on that play to earn model. And this is kind of one of the problems that we're trying to solve.
I'm getting loads of questions here saying, when is the game? When is it going to be released? And I'm looking at Adam. I'll give him a minute to think about that. But before we get to that question, Jordan, can people earn in-game tokens now? That's the question people are asking. Can they earn it? I can answer the first part of that. We've got some mini games. We are developing them by the day. The team in the office, I saw a page last week which had over 20 games, 20 or 30 games, I believe. What we're doing is we're setting up the mechanism, which Adam could talk about as well in a bit more detail, so we can track people's progress and their scores, and then also give them the ability to earn a token. Now, what we're trying not to do is give anybody an unfair advantage at this point. So we are giving them the ability to earn the governance token through playing the in-game mini games. When the game launches, then we will only be allowing people to earn the utility token. But we don't want people to have a 2, 3, 4 months head start on that, because again, we're very much against this pay to win, and we feel it will give people a massive advantage if they can do that now. Can you talk to us a little bit about the mini games and how that mechanism will work in terms of tracking the earnings and then also development of the game and sort of delivery? Thanks, Adam.
So you're absolutely right, Vince. We've got a host of mini games that are currently either fully developed, under development, or coming soon. So I don't know if we have the final public figure on the library, but it will be quite large. And I think it's going to be, in and of itself, a really interesting experience for people to have, an experience within the overall OpiPets world. And as you say, we are tracking everyone's scores, interactions across all of those mini games. It's a number of things. It's the number of times they're coming in on a daily basis, weekly basis, the actual scores they're getting as well. There's a whole mechanism around all of that. And as you say, linking it to the governance token initially is a fair way of doing it. But that whole mini game experience, to be honest with you, is going to be first class, and it's going to be almost a sort of gaming environment in its own right. So to actually have that be part of the OpiPets world, I think is going to be really compelling.
What got me really excited about the mini games is the fact that the OpiPet characters are in the games. And I love that, because I've seen some mini games and other titles, and they're sort of just off the shelf. But I love the fact the characters are integrating in this, which is great. Here's a question which I probably can answer myself is, I'm seeing somebody's being very green here. How will we balance the in-game token emissions? Now, across Opus Group, we can't quite talk about the partner quite yet. We will do in a number of weeks, but we are creating an Opus forest, and this is the first time that we've spoken about this publicly. So our adventure is to be completely carbon neutral for the entire company. That's Opus Group, OpiPets, and also Opus Cloud as well, and then all the other projects that we come up with in future as well. So we will talk in a lot more detail about that, but the partner that we have is first class. It is a project that is within the UK. In the first instance, we'll look to do partnerships elsewhere, but it's something that we'll have very, very close control and close contact with. We're certainly not farming a software company in the middle of nowhere. So I'm really excited about that, and that will be a good, really big marketing comms announcement once we can do that in a couple of weeks' time. We've got a ton of questions, and I'm lost track of them because we've, literally, I can't even keep up with everything that's coming in. But one of the questions here is, Polygon has partnered with Instagram NFTs and many other giants in the industry. Why have we chosen BSC as our blockchain and not Polygon?
The reason we went with BSC is obviously transactions per second and low transaction fees. This was almost vital for us when working on the model that we're currently working on. Although we are trying to keep on-chain activity to an absolute minimum, there still is going to be quite a lot of transaction volume, especially as the game and the community scales. And in order to do that, we need to make sure that transactions for the community are as cost effective as possible. What you don't want to be doing is playing the game and putting a lot of time and effort into a game and getting all of your effort eaten up by transaction fees, which a lot of layer ones struggle with.
Am I also right in saying that if we went for another blockchain and the transaction fees were higher, then it makes it more difficult for us to offer our free-to-play perspective? Because for us, you can play the game without any commitment or any money at all and still mint your NFT once you've earned enough of the in-game token. So that would be much more difficult had there been higher transaction fees, I'm assuming.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's nothing really more I can say on that. You hit it dead on the nail there.
So Adam, I did promise this is looming. The question on development and roadmap, sort of where are we with the development of the game? Where are we in the development cycle? What are the things that your devs are doing at the moment within your team?
Yeah, sure. So as with any project, you have a combination of what we call the sort of front-end experience, which is what the user sees and what they interact with, and the back-end experience, which is the connections with the blockchain and the database. There's been a lot of work on the back end. As Jordan said, tokens have already been minted, and so a lot of that work has been started. And in terms of the infrastructure, if you like, to power the game, a lot of that work is underway. We're moving on to the front-end aspects, the elements that people interact with, and you've mentioned the mini games themselves, so a portion of that has already been completed and is moving forward. And I think we're still aiming for later this year to bring the game to life in full form for everybody to interact with, really. It's amazing to see it come to life, and as you'd expect, it takes a whole team of people, from artists and creatives, front-end developers and designers, back-end engineers, blockchain experts. So there's a lot of focus on it, a lot of work happening, but later this year we should be able to bring it to life, yeah.
Great, I know people wait with bated breath for that. One of the other ones that have come in is a little bit of a cynical question, but to be honest, we're trying to be transparent as possible. You have raised approximately 4 million in seed funding. Why is it taking so long to develop OpiPets? Others have been able to develop games in shorter periods. What's taking so long? I'll answer a little bit of that. If we wanted to develop, let's say a clone of Axie or a very similar game, Adam might not agree with me, but I think we could probably do it in quite a short time frame. What we're doing with OpiPets, and we took a conscious decision, Jordan and I and Adam and the rest of the team, to take a step back and develop a world around OpiPets, because we realized if the only thing or the only utility of the game is the earning mechanism or the ability to earn, then there's no game. If we develop something that's fun, interactive, something people enjoy and they want to get involved in, then when we are going through a bear market like we are now, there's still incentive to play, because you actually enjoy making the game and playing the game. To build worlds, to develop the lore, these things take time because they're creative pursuits. And in my opinion, we're not trying to time the market to make a great big splash and run away and make lots of money. We're trying to make a game that lasts a long time. So taking a significant amount of time to build a story and do it correct way, if we miss the next wave, so be it. We want to deliver a game that people enjoy.
Yeah, I'm happy to speak to that as well. I mean, I think you're right. Axie and there are other, obviously very successful entertainment assets, and it's great to see that. But we're not building, just a series of mechanics. This is an interactive world. It is a truly immersive experience for the gamers. And I think if you put it in the context of video games in the wider industry, they take a long time to build. Proper video games take a long time, from story creation, art direction, then the development and the testing, everything that follows. So I think this is important for everybody to know. This is going to be a great experience. We aren't trying to rush it. We're not, as you say, looking for a particular market timing. And we want it to have longevity, so that when it launches, it's going to be something that you play for, a long time to come. It's got lasting value baked into it.
I think just to add on to that, what you also need to remember is that all of our characters, all of our shopkeepers, all of our assets and our entire world are all hand-drawn. So an incredible amount of time has gone into creating this world, the characters and all the assets in it, by our art team, which is, some of it is based here in the UK, and some of them are based all over the world. We've got some in Europe, we've got some in South America. So really we've looked far and wide for the right type of talent to really deliver the quality behind the characters and how the game feels.
Yeah, absolutely. The hand-drawn stuff, as we know, just blows me away. You guys will see from the art streams with Oddy and the rest of the team, we are creating these by hand. They're not procedurally generated. There's not a Photoshop script that's just putting out 10,000 NFTs. It doesn't work that way. And actually, we created a massive headache for Adam and the rest of the dev team, because they probably would have liked a more structured, modular approach to it. But our artists have just gone to town, and we've said go to town. The pets are not all the same size and not all the same dimensions, so it creates a headache. But I think in the long term, it's much more creative and much more entertaining for people. One of the other questions is around the distribution of the governance token and vesting schedules. Are there different vesting schedules? Jordan and I have done a lot of work on the tokenomics side of things. And one of the things we can say is the best thing to do, and we'll get Rod to hopefully put a link somewhere in the video, as they do on YouTube. I feel like a YouTuber now, subscribe here, the link's there. But what we'll do is we'll put a link to the tokenomics so everybody can see the schedules in more detail. What we will say is that all of us in the team of Opus Group, from the founders to people who have joined more recently, we have a 2-year vesting schedule for the token. I think 2 years is on the very, very long end. Lots of projects don't do that. I keep on saying this, but I think it's worth mentioning. We are not trying to launch a game and sell it in 3 weeks and dump it on the community. We know that the value, like you look at World of Warcraft or Minecraft, the value's in a coherent and consistent and engaged community, and that will take a significant amount of time. Our partners, advisors, marketing, airdrops, so on and so forth, they are on vesting schedules as well, slightly different from ours, but again, we want to incentivize partners who are long term. We don't want people who only interest is hyping up the project for the sake of us for 6 months and then they dump all the coins on the market. We have a vesting schedule. I think the people at the most advantage are the community. They have the shortest vesting schedule off the top of my head, because of course it's their token, it's their game, it's their community, and hopefully they see the merit of the game and they want to hold on to their tokens for longer. Want to add to that? Listen, we could go on and on and on. We've been about 20 minutes or so. I'm getting on the stage shortly, so I need to go and prep. Thank you very much. We're going to do these much more often. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Jordan. I hope this was helpful to the community. You know where to contact us, and look out for much more updates from the rest of the OpiPets team. Thank you.